Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there, because my camera's turned, is John. John, your resident Millennial. John, how are you doing this evening?
Pretty well, doing.
We are trying a different meeting format tonight. We're hanging,
Yeah.
we're hanging out tonight, and we turned on the the closed captioning
Figured out.
feature,
Yeah, we figured out the
which
live closed
is
captioning is awesome.
which at some
Go
point, as we've discovered off mic, is probably going to incriminate us
ahead.
about something, but who knows what. So I see Saint is in the house tonight. Good to see you tonight, Saint. He says he's come to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and he's all out of bubble gum. But I have some here if you would like some. Uh,
Name that
just
movie.
just
Anyone who
FYI.
can. Robert, name the movie.
Oh, what was the one that I'm?
80s, dude. It's 80s. You should be all over it.
Good God! But you know it's been used in other
Yeah, but it
stuff.
was originally, yeah, right, but it was originally from this movie.
Good Lord. Wow. You're putting me on the spot, and I'm going to
Yeah,
draw a blank. I know I'm going to draw a blank because it's going to be one of those tip of my tongue things.
yeah.
Um, oh, wait. No. Never mind. Go ahead. Tell me.
They live.
Is that what it was? They Live.
Yep,
The one,
they
Ratty
live.
Roddy Piper?
Yep.
Wow. God. I haven't seen that movie in so long.
Here to kick ass and chew bubblegum. And he's all out of gum.
Community, I guess, and chew bubblegum. It is all at a gun. See what I'm
Hey,
saying? I
I
mean,
love it, dude. It's so funny.
I think I love you.
I
So
think I
funny.
love you.
What?
Yeah, Robert. It's
Oh,
it's like actually what it's doing is it's expressing your true feelings as
right.
opposed to like what you're actually saying. So
This is good. This is Google's very own Freudian closed captioning.
I
uh,
understand Freudian. Okay, fantastic. I don't
but anyway,
understand you. Oh,
things.
it's gonna be so distracting. Oh god.
But anyway, so I'm sure it'll give you some choice screenshots if you're looking for them. But
Yeah,
you know, don't cancel. Don't get us canceled too hard. Don't get us canceled too hard.
you
That's the
probably
only
didn't
is.
say it. That's the thing.
Right. Right. But if you don't mind, hit the like button. We don't mind you hitting that. You know, hit the like button. You can do that. Just don't cancel us or cancel the like button. That's funny. Your background's wiping out your thumbs. It looked like you were just doing monkey gestures.
Yeah, there's like two thumbs right here, or there's like two
Yeah,
fingers or
yeah.
something
But
split off, and I'm
but
pushing this up.
your thumbs are disappearing in the
Oh,
background.
that's lame.
So it just looks like you're autistic.
Well,
I'm just saying.
oh yeah, this is like
Yeah, right.
yes, my thumbs are up. See, I
you
swear.
gotta you
Oh my
have to
god.
work on that. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, we
real
we gotta
embarrassing.
we gotta leave that wacky weed alone. I think is what we gotta do. We gotta leave that wacky weed alone. The weed whacker. That's what it was. I hit my head
Mhm.
trimming the lawn.
Right. That's right. That's right. Oh my god. So yeah, that's an opening to the show, isn't it?
So I know John, you're being super G tonight, and I know we're kind of going to do an abbreviated show tonight, not our usual 2 hour stand up routine that we
Right.
sit down for, and isn't funny. Um, but I just wanted to bring a few things to your attention, talk about a couple of things, um, and see what you have to say about it. Because of course, right now we're seeing a lot of this cancel culture going on, and there's been some interesting things. So the first thing I wanted to do is I just wanted to point out a couple of examples of where this kind of thing can go. Um, so there was a lady in China. Okay. Now we all understand what how China is, right? But anyway,
Yeah.
She has a vacation home, and a really nice one. Is it's like $3 million in U.S. something along expensive vacation home. And she has a property management company that watches over the place when she's not there, because she's not there for long periods of time, of course, because it's what it is. She's watching soap operas, and she realizes she's seeing her house on the soap operas, like two different shows that she
Oh
watches,
yeah.
and she's like, "What the fuck?" So come to find out, the property management company was renting her house out without her knowing about it for film shoots, right? And this is in China. Now, here's the interesting thing,
That's awesome. Oh my God, what a fuck you.
right?
Like,
So she sued them, and she brought two things against them. She sued them for damages, for monetary, and it was like I think it was like 1 million yuan or whatever that equates to. But she only received 400,000 in compensatory damages for that. The other thing she sued for was an invasion of privacy, and
did they have that?
they threw that out,
Yeah, obviously.
right?
There's no such
Because
thing. Like, what are you
because
talking about
privacy,
privacy?
right? The privacy doesn't exist there, so they just dismiss that portion of it, right? Psh, that's gone. But yeah, she's watching soap operas, sees her house in the soap operas, right? How
And
many
that
saints
is why you never watch soap operas.
right? How many pornos have been shot in that house, right?
Right, right.
Because those are one day and gone, one day and gone, one day and gone. Here's a couple of grand.
Yeah.
But now, also over the pond, as it were, in the UK, there was an incident. A boy, he's 13 years old, and they finally are going back to school. Well, he got put in isolation at the school
Hmm.
because his haircut was too short.
Right.
So, and basically he had my haircut with a little bit longer on the top. But because of the school rules, and now understand, this is a 13-year-old boy going to a community college, going into
Oh,
the ninth grade, whatever, first year of community college, right?
that's not ninth grade. That's
Well,
like
not I
11th.
didn't
That's
mean.
like 13th grade.
He's a year nine. He's a year nine pupil going to community college. So how that
Uh,
equates to, right? I don't.
yeah.
They may do community college different over there, right? I don't know. But he's 13 years old, and he was going to Exmouth Community College. But when he goes in, they isolate him, and he can't be around the other students because the haircut was extreme and too short. Now,
I've never heard of a rule anywhere ever in my entire life that your haircut is too short.
yeah.
I've heard like too long or like it's, wacky, whatever kind of wacky shit people do to their hair. But never like, oh, you have a buzz cut. Your hair is too short. Get the fuck out.
So
What?
the
A buzz
school,
con? Like, I
um,
love this thing.
but see, you have to think about it like I guess from this perspective is why they would do it, because um, in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, shaving your head, like that whole neo-Nazi kind of thing. Um, I would expect it has something to do with that. But the principal said, as you would expect, the college has high standards around the appearance of our students. This includes the appropriate wearing of a uniform, jewelry, and haircuts. Now, get this: the boy at 13 has an earring in, but his haircut's too short.
Right. Because an earring on a boy means you're gay, whereas, which is fine. And then having your hair cut like that means you're a Nazi. So that obviously
Right.
can't do.
Right.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting. So these are the kind of things that are being policed from, a
The UK is a fucking
this
like
is how you're
dystopian
right.
nightmare.
This is where your rights can go. And then on top of
Yeah.
that, so in Kentucky, Kentucky has a bill on the table. It's going to criminalize words that offend cops, and authorizes arrests for distributing anything, potentially even
What?
water bottles at a protest or a riot, if it qualifies as a riot. So if you have water, for instance, you go out there and you're
Mhm.
selling bottles of water, and the thing is turns into a riot, you can go to jail in Kentucky for that. For supplying them
Yeah,
with weapons, anything that can be used as a
I'm
weapon.
much more I'm much more concerned about the first part that you said.
Ah,
You said they can be arrested for words that hurt cops' feelings or some
right.
shit.
Now here's what that is.
Oh,
The
peace feelings.
the
Fuck with me.
the bill also authorizes the arrest of anyone who accosts, insults, taunts, or challenges a law enforcement officer with
Fuck off.
with offensive or derisive words, or by gestures or other physical contact that would have a direct tendency to provoke a violent response from the perspective of a reasonable and prudent person. And it's
The
and it's
fuck does that mean?
it's going to
Go
be
fuck
a
yourself.
disorderly conduct in the second degree charge. So provoking. So all of that stuff where they're trying, everyone was,
I
in
don't
those
know. I don't
black
like that.
BLM riots, trying
Yeah,
to
I
provoke the
understand.
police. I mean,
I
they're
understand. But
right.
still, I don't like that at all. No, that's not a good idea.
I
I
mean,
understand why they're doing it, and I don't like the people that they're legislating against. But at the same time, doesn't mean that it can't be turned around on me. So no, fuck
right,
you.
right.
That's bad. No.
Um, so so now, but bear in mind, this is being done at the state level, right? So there's where it comes in. It's like, okay, John, is this a state overreaching in its state's rights to
Yeah,
set law?
yeah, it's unconstitutional. The Constitution
Ah,
trumps state laws.
okay.
So if it's unconstitutional, like it goes against free speech, then yeah, the Supreme Court is allowed to say, no, you cannot make that a law in your state. That is their job to do. That's what their job is.
So then that means it's got to be tested against the Supreme Court to determine if the federal government, vis-a-vis the Supreme Court, sides
Right.
with Kentucky on this and enforces it as a law,
I
lets
hope
it
they
stand.
don't. They shouldn't. They shouldn't. I mean, there's no reason why they would, I would think. I don't know. It's most likely just a bill introduced designed to fail. Like it's introduced in order to fail so that they can say, look, we're doing something. Then the news comes out with, oh, look, they're introducing this bill, and then you just kind of don't hear about it again. You know what I mean? That's what it sounds like.
Um, so for they are the constitutional defense for the policy presumably would rely on the hoary and highly dubious fighting words doctrine. In the 1942 case Chiplinsky versus New Hampshire, the Supreme Court unanimously held that the First Amendment does not protect words that, by their very utterance, inflict injury or tend to incite an immediate breach of the peace. The case involved a Jehovah's Witness named Chiplinsky who attracted a hostile crowd by denouncing organized religion as a racket on the streets of Rochester, New Hampshire. He was arrested for calling a city marshal a goddamn racketeer and a damned fascist. And his insults violated a New Hampshire law that made it a crime to address any offensive, derisive, or annoying word to any other person who is lawfully in any street or other public place, to call him by any offensive or derisive name, or to make any noise or exclamation in his presence and hearing with intent to deride, offend, or annoy him. So since 1942,
What?
um,
I do not understand most of that other than like,
basically saying you can't. They were enforcing this social justice speech thing in 1942. You can't say something offensive that would incite someone to.
well,
They're
okay,
basically looking at it as an incitement to violence.
right.
You were
It's a different
inciting
thing.
someone you're provoking,
So if
right?
I say, Robert, you are without a doubt a cock smoking piece of shit motherfucker,
That's
is that
provoking.
inciting you to, is that provoking you?
That's provoking
That's
language, right?
so that's fucking retarded.
Right. You can't sticks and
Hey,
stones,
we're
bro.
getting censor retarded. That's awesome.
S- sticks and stones, sir. Sticks and
Yeah,
stones.
apparently not.
I see Ed recycled bear is in the house. I see Ed has shown up this evening. Why is there dictation? We're just checking out Google
It's fun.
Hangouts, and we thought it would be fun to see what kind of things it might put up there that we didn't actually say, and we'll have video
Right.
to verify that we didn't say it. But it has a tendency to be a little free with the word recognition. I'm just saying. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Also, someone got a webcam upgrade. No, no, no. This is just some tricks with Google Hangouts. Just some
Yeah.
stuff you can do with
Weird.
that. Saint says it's bullshit. I didn't say that. Oh, hi. uh, this won't stand on First Amendment grounds. A federal circuit judge will
Right.
shoot this down. It won't make the Supreme Court. Now
Right. Like I said, it was,
that's the hope. That's the
well, yeah, I
hope.
mean, like I said, I think it's just one of those bills that's thrown in there designed to fail, just so that you can go back to your constituents and say, look, I tried to do something. I tried to introduce this bill, but it was shot down, right? That's what it's for. They put it in there knowing it's not going to go through.
What if it's a cut to the Democratic leadership in Washington,
Oh, well, yeah,
and
yeah, of course.
basically, I mean,
But again,
they see the size of the machine, and it's like, well, it's time to start getting on board. Um, that's where the question of the Supreme Court's going to come down, because it'll have to go against up in front of the Supreme Court again.
well, no, like Saint was saying, it'll probably go to a circuit judge first,
Well, maybe, but
so
if
it probably won't make it all the way to the Supreme Court.
hopefully, well, I guess it all depends on the politics of the judge involved too. See, because we can't escape
But it
the
would have to be
politics
like
of
they
it.
agree with it through like nine circuit courts. Nine judges would have to look at it.
Well,
You
like I
know,
said,
at least I think that's how it works. I don't know. I don't know civics.
well, I think they do
I'm
the
just a libertarian podcaster. You think I should know civics? Jesus.
right.
Right?
I don't know the
Jesus
difference.
Christ.
I don't know the difference between the Pacific and the Atlantic. I
That's true. Yeah. I don't know if it's the Pacific Ocean that's already been chosen or if it's the Atlantic. I don't know.
um, so yeah, so you there's where it comes down to is this is where you're going to find out just how much politics are in the justice system, the court system, when it starts coming to these constitutional things, because this is a tough one. This is like very much. There's God, it's a fine line to walk between what you can and can't say, right? Free speech and all that. I get it, but the question becomes, is it wrong for a cop to respond to these provoking things when somebody starts saying something personal about you versus, it's great
No.
to call all cops are pigs or whatever, if you're saying that in a protest, but when you start getting personal and death threats or
Well,
saying
death threats are not covered in the First Amendment. That's already a thing. So no, death threats are different.
well,
Other than
okay,
like, if I'll just say you're a piece of shit, that's not the same thing as being like, I'm gonna kill you, you piece of shit.
well,
Right?
you
That's
can
a
you
totally
can
different
you
thing.
can also say I want you dead, and that's not a threat,
I don't think that's a death threat. No,
right?
that's not quite a
but
threat. Right?
but it could be perceived by the recipient of said words,
Oh, whatever. Perceived
right?
is nuts, dude.
Well,
No, fuck that.
I mean, if you're a cop, what you got to put yourself in the in a cop's shoes when that kind of thing is going on. I was impressed at the patience that a lot of those
Yeah.
line cops had in dealing with that. Some of the shit that they were getting verbally thrown at them, and they just didn't pop somebody in the mouth.
Well, my favorite one is when it's like a white BLM supporter calling a black cop a coon. That's like the funniest shit ever. It's just like really funny. It's just like how is that
Right?
like
Was
how are
that
you
literally the
doing this?
pot? Was that literally the pot and the kettle?
Well, quite literally,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so, but now this narrative, though, I mean, this narrative is going to continue on. So, right, we have all of this happening. So, there's a African American man in Michigan, and his lawyer is trying to be a spin doctor with the narrative, right?
I was a fan, dude. I was a great fan.
He was wrongly convicted of a shooting in Michigan in 2011. Okay, he is suing Hertz because it has taken them it took them 7 years to turn up and turn over a receipt that was the key evidence that would have proven him innocent, and they weren't providing it for it. It was just like this long bureaucratic nightmare, whatever, getting it from him. They just didn't give it. The lawyer that is handling the lawsuit is saying that Hertz didn't come up with the document because the poor black guy just wasn't worth their time. This poor black guy wasn't worth their time.
Wait, who said that?
That's it. That's what the lawyer is arguing. He's arguing that the receipt wasn't provided because of racial bias, and it was because he's just a poor black guy, and it wasn't worth their time to come up with the receipt. And I'm like, excuse me, if somebody was doing their job and demanding evidence, that's evidence, right? So it's like, did this fall down on his defense lawyer? Did he have one? But but to make this argument that the car company is doing it out of racial bias is spinning a very fucked up narrative.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I get it. Like, it's I guess trendy to do that in this day and age, especially in court. As soon as you bring that out, everyone's like, "Whoa!" All the buttholes in the room, tighten. Um,
But see what?
but
But
yeah,
this is how that propaganda gets pushed, right?
yeah,
Because of course the article isn't calling him out for that pandering position,
yeah,
right? It's just asserting that this is what Hertz did. I mean, and it pushes that propaganda, pushes that narrative, cements that brainwashing. Georgetown law professor terminated after remarks about black students because what she said is being decontextualized. They're going on this that she said. And you know what? I hate to say this. I end up having this angst every semester that a lot of my lower ones are blacks. Happens almost every semester. And it's like, oh, come on. You get some really good ones, but there are also usually some that are just plain at the bottom. It drives me crazy. Now, now,
See, that's why I could never be a college professor because I would end up saying some stupid shit
right.
like
But
just
she
like
didn't.
on paper, like when you read it out, it sounds bad. But like I'm sure if you actually heard him speak about it, it
Right.
wouldn't be like that. But it's because it's written like that. It just sounds terrible.
Right, and this is the thing. They're jumping on that portion specifically that she said,
Right.
and not giving leaning on the context from before that, where they're talking about performance standards and performance levels, participation, lower participation, and she's
Yeah.
this angst every semester that a lot of my lower ones, lower participation ones, you know, are blacks. She was speaking in a context. She was speaking about something, and the lower ones was talking about expectations about performances, that kind of thing. She worries that some of those are going to be blacks, and it's understandable because then look at the position you're in colleges these days. That No Child Left Behind thing is
Oh
creeping
yeah.
into colleges, right? So No Child Left Behind is turning into No College Student Left Behind. And I can
Yeah. Yeah.
understand, but even
Actually, real
oh,
quick as an aside, I really like. I think it was Elon Musk who said, like college is not a sign of intelligence. It's just to show that you can commit and follow through with something. Like it really doesn't do anything for you other than prove that you
right,
can follow through with the work.
just like the military accomplishes the same thing college does.
Oh yeah, 100%, hundred
It
percent.
does that, and you get
Yeah,
job training,
and
education
you get
out
a
of it.
skill.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
and
You
you
get
get a
that
skill.
skill set.
Yeah,
Lots of skill
yeah,
sets if you put your mind to it.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's lots of
Huge.
shit you can do with it.
It's
Yeah,
better. You're better going into the military for that
I agree.
aspect. If you only go in for 4 years, I understand that there's the risk of going to a war zone, etc.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, it's some of the best training you can
Well,
get because
let me tell you though, most people don't go to the infantry. You know what I mean? Like, think about how small
exactly.
the infantry is. Like, first of all, you have to go into either the army or the Marines. in order for it to be possible for you to be in
Sure,
infantry. The
but even that,
Marines,
right?
more likely in the Marines. But like in the army, the regular grunt is usually someone who just doesn't fit in anywhere else, which is not most people. Most people do are able to do something else or have the aptitude to do something else,
Right.
and so most of them do.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, yeah, people in the Navy, the Air Force, they don't, you know, typically they don't do like the
Right.
soldiers
What? No,
grunt.
you
You're
have
not going to get shot at. Most likely, you won't get shot at all.
right, but mostly those two branches are going to have specialist teams that do groundwork, but not
Of
frontline
course, but
infantry work. And frontline
that's
infantry,
volunteer stuff.
right?
That's not you're assigned to. That's volunteer stuff.
But the front line of a war, the picture of it has changed drastically from what
Right.
we know from back in the old days. There's not as much infantry on the front line anymore,
You don't need them
right?
as
You're
much.
yeah,
Right. You don't need them as
um,
much.
yeah. You're taking stuff out
Anything is,
range a
is
lot, right?
right. You're pretty much using infantry like standard grunt if you're trying to like clear a house. If you don't want to flatten the
Yeah,
house,
they're
you can
cleanup,
just flatten the house from a distance.
right?
If you're trying to arrest somebody or something like that, that's when you send in those guys to go
Right.
and break the door down and go inside the
But see,
house. That's really what it's for.
even in urban environments like that, you want assault teams that are a little bit more trained than infantry too, right? Urban assault teams
Oh
are
yeah, you want
training.
that, but you don't always have that option. But you
Sure,
want
sure,
that.
sure.
And then of
Yeah,
course for occupying forces, they're good for that too.
we're America.
Patrolling.
We always have that option. Duh.
Yeah.
You've
Well,
seen how much we spend. But anyway,
yeah, but not always though. I mean,
right,
dude, you hear stories about
right.
like, you're pinned down somewhere and you're like, hey, where's that air support? And they're like, you should have a look, bro.
Right.
Like, go figure it out. I don't know.
All
Like
right.
you hear all kinds of stories about that. But yeah,
All
go
right.
ahead.
Remember, you don't want to go all night.
No, no, I know.
But the dean of the school, he called their conversation reprehensible. Their statements were reprehensible in what they were talking about in their evaluation of black students. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't see what's wrong with what she said. And she was even able to give allowed to give him context of what the conversation was, and they still fired her. But she was like, fuck this, I'm quitting anyway. She was turning in a resignation when she went in to talk to him anyway. She's like, I can't. She knew she couldn't fight it. She knew she was done. She was canceled. Done. Gone.
Yeah.
You'll never be racist in a college in this town again. Ha!
Or ever in any college anywhere again.
Saint says he was a human resource specialist in the army.
Oh,
Nice.
dude, that's lame. No,
What
I'm
you,
just kidding.
you're saying that like humans have resources in the army? Come
Or that anyone in the army is a human.
on.
I mean, aren't they always maggot? No, I know that's just movies. I know. I know. Jeez, calm down, Saint. I know.
But speaking of speaking of the money we spend um, on the military and other assorted things, the stimulus package was signed off by Joe Biden today. The IRS
Yay.
immediately started sending out money, so
Oh my God.
like people are getting money in their bank accounts already as it's
That's
starting to come
insane.
out. Um, but now, one side note, I thought this: the Vatican has come out and said that they are like severely they're gonna like their 2021 budget is looking at a 50 million euro deficit.
Oh, do they use the euro? Interesting.
The Vatican's going broke,
It
and
makes sense. It makes sense.
and it's
It
like,
totally makes sense.
can a religion go broke? I mean, was it a
Yes,
bit
it totally makes sense.
when was it a business?
It's always been, but it's
um,
always been a. I mean, come on, like you go to your local bishop and you say, oh no, you go to your local priest back in the Middle Ages and you're like, forgive me, Father, I've sinned. What is it? I forget how to say it in Latin now, but I don't know, I can't remember it. Um, but yeah, they're like, oh yeah, you sinned. Okay, cool. Put a couple of, little donation to the church. Pay your alms, and then say 10 Hail Marys, and you're good.
right?
You know,
Yeah. Well, they'll remind you to
it's always been a business.
they'll remind you to tithe at service tomorrow because you have your confession on Saturday evening, and then you go to mass on Sunday. So
Yeah,
there's you just there's not a lot. You got like 12, 15 hours. You can remember. You can remember to make
good
sure.
time.
Give that,
Yeah,
make sure and tithe. But apparently, this has been going on for a little while, and it's just they've over the last few years, over recent years, it says they have been dipping into the financial reserves from previous donations in the past. So they had built up a nice bankroll, but now they've been tapping
right.
into that
That,
because
that savings account.
they're overspending for the last few years, and now it's pretty much they're tapped. They're like,
Dude,
okay,
they got.
y'all need to be
Don't
hitting
know if
that
you've
plate a
been.
little harder.
Don't know if you've seen the Vatican or know what's around there. They can pawn some shit. They'll be okay for a
Right.
while. They can
So
pawn a few things and they'll be all right. Like, you
so
know,
so that it begs the question. The Vatican is the seat of the Catholic
right.
empire, religion, whatever you want to call it.
It actually used to. You could have make an you could make an argument it once was an empire. Like you
The
absolutely
Holy
can make
Roman
that
Empire.
argument.
The Holy Roman Empire was kind of
Well,
part. It kind
that
of
was
was.
kind of that's more of a name.
It was
That's
like
kind of like the
right,
Democratic Republic of Korea. You know what I mean?
right,
Like it's yeah.
right. But um, what a, what are the chances that we, as a Christian, God fearing country, bail out the Vatican?
I think it's more likely that you see Italy and therefore the EU bail out the Vatican before you see the United States because we are a mostly Protestant country.
But isn't that the same? Isn't that also true in a lot of Europe? More Protestant than
Uh,
Catholic?
yes and no, not really. I know Spain is mostly Catholic. Italy, of course, is Catholic. Um, I think France is also pretty Catholic. I think it's really England because England has the Church of England, uh, which they started their own church. That's kind of where most Protestantism is in Europe. I think Europe is mostly Catholic. It's actually here in the United States that we have more Protestantism than anywhere else. I'm trying to think, but I'm pretty sure you're going to find mostly Catholics in Europe.
Yeah. Well,
I'm trying to think though.
uh, it,
Maybe I'm
it,
wrong about that. I don't know.
well, if it is, then that's an impetus for the EU to help do something about it. But it's just a
Uh,
thought. But I don't think as many American. I'll honestly say I don't think as many American Catholics go to church like they used to, like previous days. Uh,
yeah,
which
that's
is where
definitely
a lot of
true.
that money's coming from, and a lot of them aren't just like when they're gonna
Well,
they see giving to the community as tithing as well,
well
right?
before well before Corona hit, or COVID hit, like there were always Catholics, and I'm sure even back in your day when you were going to church, there were Catholics that were like the nominal Catholics,
Right, right,
you
right,
know,
right,
where they would go at Easter and Christmas, and that
right,
was about it.
right,
So I'm
exactly.
sure that it's just more and more people are becoming that than
Well,
were before.
well,
I always say like I was raised Catholic. That's part of like almost an ethnicity,
right. Well,
right? And so there'll be people who say like, "Oh yeah, I'm Catholic," but they're not practicing, right? That
exactly.
happens all the time. Yeah.
Well, I figured something out a long time ago that the Bible doesn't specifically tell you, like the Catholic Bible doesn't say, go to church and give and tithe, right?
Right. That's just a
Tithing was
tradition.
a giving up of yourself in the name of God, and I think a lot of people are taking that idea that being charitable, like if I'm charitable with my money, that is the same thing as tithing, right?
Right.
I'm doing this charitable stuff with my money, with my time.
Well, yeah, that's why you're supposed to do that. Like again in the Middle Ages, you know, you would donate your time.
Right.
especially poorer people, would donate their time in order to pay their alms or to
Right.
tithe, whereas the rich would pay money in order to not have to do that.
Right.
So that's kind of that's kind of where that started.
So
Or they
it
would send someone else to do their tithing for them near the time.
right.
They're like, oh yeah, you go ahead. So you do your time, but then also while you're there, do mine too.
Is it possible for the so I guess it would be possible for them to go bankrupt. And what does that mean from on the world stage if a religious organization like
I don't know.
the Catholic Church were to go bankrupt? Is that
I don't know how that would
I
work.
mean, they've had some sketchy things going on with money and dubious other things in their recent history that's
Of
coming to
course, yeah.
light. So, where does the religion stand at this point?
I
Uh,
mean, obviously, I think at least for the foreseeable future, there's going to be a Catholic Church. It might be scaled down, at least at the Vatican level. I don't think maybe it's going to be less opulent because they're probably going to start cutting stuff before they just get rid of it. You know what I mean?
no, I get you,
Um,
but yeah,
and
no,
then they can make this turn, but then they can make this turn about like oh look, we all need to be more humble. You know, look at the Pope now. The Pope is let's be like a celebrated Pope, the one that starts scaling back and spending less and getting rid of some of the more opulent things that are in the Vatican, maybe scaling the Vatican back, little like making it smaller or um, whatever, renting out stuff. There's lots of things they can do. Um,
but
and then of course they'd be like, we all need to be more humble. God tells us,
right,
humility is an important lesson, blah blah blah, that whole thing, and then start going with that angle, as opposed to the progressive angle that they're going to now. Maybe that'll be part of it, right? The progressivism, being like,
right,
oh well, we're one of the rich people, so we're bad, so we need to, we're gonna
right,
scale that back. And look, we're doing this outreach. There's so much they can do with that. Like, there's a lot of angles there.
right. But what that doesn't do, it doesn't address, are are the millions of, I'll say, previous Catholics that are embarrassed to own the religion anymore.
Um,
Whether it be because they've been more progressive than hardcore Catholics agree with, or whether it be all of the shady things that have gone on from the from the priests, or the shady things that have gone on with the money and the corruption, um, or just the simple
I don't
fact
know.
that it doesn't appear that it can stand on its own 2 feet in the present day. There's a lot of reasons to acknowledge Christianity, but to deny Catholicism.
I don't know.
That's a lot of strikes against them.
I mean, well, they have a checkered past anyway, and it doesn't stop Catholics otherwise. It's kind of like a tribe. I mean, it really is. Like,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
but
it's
when was the last time you were in a Catholic church?
a year ago or so, maybe,
Really?
when I went to like a Christmas. I think, yeah, we went
Oh,
to like
you
a
went to
Christmas
one of the
thing. Yeah, yeah,
one of the
yeah.
show days.
I was brought
Right.
there. It's
That's
not
what I'm
like I
saying.
was. Yeah,
But what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying is that the show people would be there, right?
Right,
On the
exactly.
same
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
at that same day, but
yeah.
just a
But I
regular
mean,
service.
I got confirmed and stuff. Like, I went to
Yeah.
church a lot.
Yeah, but that's
Like,
still but
twice a week.
but
Twice
that's
a week, I went to church for years. Like, that was Wednesday night and
how
Sunday
many
morning.
how many years ago was
Right.
that though? That's
That
13,
was yeah, that was
14.
a good 15 years ago or so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot can
yeah.
change in that amount of time. We've seen how things can change suddenly, and just our window for change is gone from decades down to a decade, half a decade on some things. Like, we have very fast windows now in our culture that are shifting.
Yeah, but I'm just not. No, what I'm thinking about is Catholics,
True.
not the Catholic Church, but Catholics. So
Right.
the
I
individuals
gotcha.
that make up the congregation, yeah,
I would still question my
congregation is
I
what
would
I
still
meant.
be
Yeah.
questionable about anybody in that any of the priests and the priesthood and anything like that. I would still be questionable. I mean, it's
Yeah.
always. I remember growing up, talk and the rumors about the tunnels that link the nunnery, the convent with the pastoral
Well, that's just
chambers.
corny. That's like corny 13-year-old talk is what that sounds like. But
Tell me it's not true then.
I
Prove
don't know.
right. I don't
I
know.
don't know anything about that.
I always wanted
But
to see proof if that was actually happening, but it was
we
just
know
kind of
that's
one of.
not happening. You know that's not happening in Florida
Well,
because
no,
you can't
not
build
in
a tunnel in
Florida, right?
Florida,
Right.
right?
Right.
So,
The
so there
Disney
you go.
shuttle. The Disney shuttle takes care of it. Uh,
Right.
oh shit! God damn. Uh, Ron Helton has shown up, and he says
Oh, the gun law they
the
just
gun law
passed.
they just
Yeah.
passed is another reason to leave this corrupt union that has zero respect for individual liberty. He said
Yeah.
it better die in the Senate. A simple majority should never be enough to destroy our liberties. Shall not infringe. Shall make no laws. What part of this that is the corrupt Congress unclear on? And I can make that very simple for you, Mister Helton, and you're not going to like it when I say it, but it's a plain and simple fact. Infringement has been allowed to happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
more infringement is not a stretch. It has been
100%.
allowed to happen over decades and decades. It, it, it has
I
things can
think
continue to stand.
I think that's what he's lamenting, though.
Right. Well, I mean, and but
Yeah.
that's the thing is, I mean, if we ask how far can they go, how far will they go, or how much do they not understand it? Their understanding of it is it's now that it is an enforceable amendment. It is an enforceable right. It is not an infringement anymore because we already have put our claws into it. So therefore, we just sink them in a little deeper. You must understand that as a citizen that that is exactly what's happening, and that's exactly what's going to happen. It's happened to the Fourth Amendment. It's about to happen to the First Amendment. We just saw Kentucky is already trying to act on enforcing the First Amendment right to
I
free
know. Yeah.
speech and to
It's
peaceful protest.
the right to
This
right. The First Amendment, the right to peaceably assemble.
when
Main word, peaceably.
right when we
And so,
don't
like, if someone else, like, okay, so if I'm in a protest and then I leave, and then later on it becomes violent, am I still culpable? Is that what we're? That's what it sounds like we're trying to say
eh,
with this.
eh, this is it's an open door for culpability is basically what it is. It's open door for culpability.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a protest, but if it, I mean, they're drawing a very gray line as to what is going to be considered a protest and what's considered a riot now. So understand that. But this is exactly how it happens, and and I'll be honest with you. It's look the conversation about why this is allowed to happen must be louder than the vocal minority that is in making these things happen. People have got to be voted out of office.
Well, that's the thing is,
People
it's so
that have
hard.
never that have not been willing to stand up and take office should stand up and do so. This, unfortunately, breaking the system from within is the only way you're going to stop it, and it's a very hard fought battle ahead to even attempt to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is the erosion. That's the erosion of your rights.
Well, that's what
Once
we've been talking
they
about
don't see it,
for a long time, right? And if you remember back in the day when we first started this podcast, that was something that I had to introduce to you was the erosion. Because you talked about like the Chicken Little, like, oh, the sky's falling. It's like, and I had to, I explained that it was, over time, and it wasn't, like it was never going to be all at once. But speaking of, real quick, hang on. Speaking of sky falling, Elephant Man is currently donating all of the rest of his lemons to us on D Live right now.
nice.
So at the moment, it is up to 647 lemons. So that is one, two, three, four, five diamonds, seven lemons, and 15 ice creams. So
Nice.
thank you so much, Elephant Man.
That
Holy shit,
rocks.
that is
That rocks in
awesome,
my
dude.
world. That won't make me sour at all. I
Yeah,
like
dude,
that.
I'm very happy about that. Thank you, man.
I'm
I
actually.
appreciate it so much.
You
Holy
can't.
shit,
You
that's
can't see
awesome.
it, but I am touching my nipple right now. That got me a
I'll...
little. I'm not gonna lie. That got me a little excited. Um, Helton says we cannot vote our way out of this corruption. Wake up. Okay, so
Yeah, it's true. We can't.
then that is where you really have to ask yourself the hard question: is how do you what are you going to do right now to separate yourself from that? To take yourself out of the equation, to take your some place, take yourself somewhere where they have less opportunity to put a hold on you, to
It
not
seems to
surround
me,
yourself with people, because the other alternative is not going to happen. Not now.
it
Not
seems to me like Ron Hilton's already there. He's already doing the thing
well.
that
Hopefully, well.
got himself out of there.
But you've got to get you. He's not under the radar if he's online, if he's connected. This is another thing that you have to
Right.
consider
He's
is
not, yeah, he's
you've
not
got to
100%. He's willing
disconnect.
to make,
Right.
if he's willing to make, those compromises, then that's up to him. That's his prerogative.
Right.
But
But
yes, you're right, though. To be truly completely
right.
off the grid, yes, of
Right.
course, you would have to
Right.
not be on the internet.
And
You have to not,
I'm not trying to
right.
say that as an alarmist. What I'm saying is because of this, the breadth and the scope of all of this, you've got to completely disconnect, and not just digitally, but even physically. Like, you have got to disconnect from other people. You know, hold on to any core, very tight, trusting relationships you have, but all the rest of it, man, you can't. It's not going to be safe to talk to people in public anymore and get your
Yeah.
tang tangled and say the wrong thing. And the next thing
Yeah,
you know, you've
especially
got
because everything's recorded.
right.
Everything's, yeah.
I
Plus,
mean,
we have closed captions now.
I mean,
Like,
I mean, this enforcement of speech, this enforcement of freedom of assembly, peaceful protests, all of these things have taken on a new scope now, right? And 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 it's what happened on January 6th was
oh
very
God,
bad. Was very bad in one way,
it
because
was very bad.
it let them balance the scales. It let them
Mhm.
say, "Oh, you said all these bad things about what happened
Well,
during the Black Lives Matter movement, but look, when the other side gets an opportunity, they'll do the same thing, and they'll actually storm a Capitol
oh, that's not
building."
even close. What they said was way more devious than that. Way more devious. It's that Trump supporters are violent, and we need to
Sure,
legislate against them. And so now it is still the right wing is now the enemy. They are the counter-revolutionary.
sure.
Right? We're moving in seriously every single like every few months we move closer and closer towards French Revolution. Like all the tactics, the same tactics are being used,
But it's being used by both
the same
sides.
rhetoric. Not really.
Look at
One side is
Kentucky.
effective.
Do you think?
One side is effective. The other side is not
Well, look at Kentucky.
effective at all.
Look at what
Right, but
Kentucky
the
is.
right is completely ineffective. I understand. But again, the right
Right,
is
and you're
ineffective at doing it, and it's not going to go through. As like I said, that was the point. It's not going to go through. It's just a symbolic piece of legislation that's never meant to actually be passed into law.
but you don't agree
Whereas the
with it,
left,
though, right?
no, I don't. No, of
Right, that's
course
what I'm
not.
saying. Both sides are trying to take this in a fucking very
Right,
bad direction. Both sides are
right. But
willing to
one
do
side is
that.
succeeding. But one side is succeeding.
Okay.
The other side is incompetent. So I'm worried about the side that's succeeding, not
Okay.
the one that can't do
Okay.
anything because it's fucking stupid.
Okay, so flip the scales, but say that the other side gets their gumption up and starts succeeding, winning.
Yeah, Yeah, I was
You don't
against it.
want that either.
I was against it back in the early 2000s.
Right. The
With the
tactics
you know
that
the in the 90s, 80s, 90s, you had the Satanic Panic. In the early 2000s, you had the no patriotism because 9/11. You know what I mean? Like, and if you said anything bad about the military, then you were a total piece of shit. It was the same thing back then, just not to the same degree that it is now. But it was the same thing. Yes, both the Republicans and the Democrats are equally authoritarian.
yeah.
Just one is more competent at
So
doing it.
so
And that's going to be the left at this point. The left is way more competent at being authoritarian than the right is.
right.
So they're the ones I'm worried about. Once the
And
right regains their power, then fine, I'll be worried about them and I'll talk, against them. But right
okay.
now, it's not
But
them.
see,
It's not worth doing.
and it is that very reasoning, that very understanding that no matter who it is, whether it's the right or it's the left, both equations come down to one thing. You need to disconnect.
Yeah, of course.
Because if you're going to be stripped of your rights, you need to be in a place where your rights won't matter. You can execute your rights,
Well, yeah,
and
where it won't be
nobody
enforced.
will be. It won't be enforced. Where nobody will be around that can hear you scream at the top of your lungs what you hate or dislike.
Right. The island
That's
metaphor that I always
that's
use when
the
it comes to
right.
explaining right. Yeah.
That's the options that we're coming down to as this
It,
moves
it's the
forward.
logical it's the logical conclusion. Yeah.
Right. So, if nothing else, I think that pressure needs to be put on the Supreme Court to start taking a hand in determining the constitutionality of things that are happening in Washington. Do their job. Like, okay, step away from the partisan politics and just look at everything that's going on and what laws are being put in place and be proactive about it and say, okay,
Mhm.
and then prove to me, then let me know how constitutionally protective you are, because I'll see the proof in the pudding. But that's
Right.
the Supreme Court right now is the one that's in the position to make a change in this if they would be proactive instead of reactive.
But their job is to be reactive.
I
That's the thing.
understand.
They're designed to be reactive, and so that's the shitty part, I guess,
Would you
is
be
that
would
you
you be
just
would you be comfortable with a proactive Supreme Court who looked at things and said before a case ever came to them and said, "Wait a minute, we question the constitutionality of this law and we want to review it," and
well,
I wish they
hang
had a
on,
say in doing that when laws go
well,
into
hang on,
place.
because they kind of had the circuit courts do that.
I know, but
That's what they do. They do that, right?
I guess
That's
I
kind of their
understand
job
I
is
understand what
to
you're saying.
yeah. That's yeah.
But
Okay,
they still
you got it.
they're dealing with cases that are brought before them still, right?
Of course, but
Right?
it's because
We have to wait
the
for
someone
that.
well, it's because the lower courts, right, will say this is unconstitutional or this is constitutional, and then someone
Right.
on
I
the other side will appeal, and you
sure.
appeal and appeal until you eventually make your way to the Supreme Court,
I get you.
unless it's just beyond appeal.
Right.
So it totally makes sense. It's a good system in theory. It's a great system. It really is how things should work if you're going to have a government.
Mm.
But
I think
yeah,
I still
it's really
think
the
uh,
government that was set up for the United States was the best government ever thought of by man. It just still sucks dick because it's government. Like it's just government.
well,
Um,
and that's the
it is the
road you have to
best
hoe,
way to
right?
shackle. It's the best way to shackle the Leviathan, as they say. But at the same time, the Leviathan is still going to break free. Like it's always going to happen. It's just this time it was harder. That's it.
Well, as long as judges are appointed by politicians,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Then the Supreme Court is nothing but an agenda machine.
right. Anything to do with government is all a propaganda and agenda machine.
Right.
Like all of it.
Right.
right? Every single fucking bit of it.
So,
Now we have federal law enforcement agencies put out propaganda.
right.
The fuck is that, Robert? That's
Uh,
not supposed to happen.
that's
They are law enforcement,
it's the
not law advocate groups. They're law enforcement.
it's
They
called
enforce the laws that
it's
exist,
called
not advocate for more.
it's how to shape a society.
Fuck is society, dude.
It's how
Return to
you
monkey. Dude, that's it. Return to fucking monkey.
but you
I'll
can't,
fling my shit at you so proudly as opposed to fucking having a
yeah.
government around. God damn.
Yeah, but you have to control the populace. The populace has to be controlled, dude. And that's the thing. The more we have, the more the control we need.
Oh
It's
man.
inevitable.
That reminds me so much of my favorite movie of all time, Master and Commander, Russell Crowe, Paul Bettany. Fantastic movie. Yeah, when the because Paul Bettany's character, Dr. Stephen Maturin, uh he's like the surgeon on the ship. And yeah, he's like arguing for anarchy. And the Russell Crowe's character is like, man must be governed, albeit not always wisely, but he must be governed. And Paul Bettany's character responds with, that's the excuse of every tyrant from Nero to Bonaparte. So obviously it was around Napoleon time, so Bonaparte was the most recent. He was the Hitler of the time, you know. But it's true. Yeah. I mean, just saying that, okay, man must be governed. Well, that's the excuse of every tyrant ever.
Sure.
I mean, that's, yeah, okay, man must be
But
governed,
it's
but man can govern himself, or man can be governed by his religion if he's not able to bring that self governance about himself. He can
yeah.
use a religion to govern. But no,
But
it's
the
the
more
teachings of the
people
religion, though,
but see that's the
that
thing.
I'm talking about.
But the truth of the matter is the more people you have, the more people you have that aren't very good at governing themselves.
No, when
They
you add
need someone
government into it,
they need some sort of leadership to give them direction. And unfortunately it becomes government. And there
but
it
no,
is.
it doesn't have to though. It
It
doesn't
does,
have to.
I didn't say it has to. I said
Right.
unfortunately that's what it
But it
becomes.
that is what it becomes because people look to
Sure,
government
we're a
as if
country.
they're.
How else are
But
you
no,
going to
it's
rule a
this
country?
idea that someone in government is smarter than you, or that someone in government has answers that you don't have because we have what elections where people must convince you. That's the whole point. Their job is to
Right.
convince you that they have solutions, that they are the right person for the
Right.
job. When really they're just as fucking dumb as you are. They're just better at telling you they're not. That's it.
Well, well, yeah. I'm not going to say that you know they haven't had some education. I mean, there's something to be said for the job of a politician. Like all the politicking aside, all of the whatever you want to the what's the parcel mouth aside, right? The
Right.
job that they have to do, there's a lot of understanding that has to go into that. Understanding, whether, especially if you're dealing with foreign countries, when it comes to trade and diplomacy and things like this, there's education that's got to be there. I mean, I would say
Hmm.
most of these people aren't stupid, but that doesn't mean that they're not idiots.
I think those words are pretty interchangeable, but I know
they,
what you
they
mean. I think there's a difference between stupid,
there's a
difference between intelligent and smart. Like you can be intelligent but
right,
not be smart,
right,
and you can be smart but not be intelligent.
right.
Those are two different things, I think. But I think what you just said there, what was it? You said they're that doesn't mean they're dumb, but they're means they're idiots or whatever it was. I think those are pretty interchangeable.
Right. Um,
Yeah,
Ron Helton says, or Alphabet says, "How about no one rules anyone, Robert?" And
I agree. Yeah,
hey, I could,
dude, I'm full
you,
on with the anarchy
hey,
thing now.
you,
Fuck anarchism.
sure. I mean,
Anarchists are ducks.
I will give you,
Fuck that.
I will say, hey, that
And artistic ducks is what the dictation said. Artistic
that
ducks.
is that is a very profound thought, and it does bring some very interesting ideas to mind as to how that would be. However, what you will not get away from is basic human nature, where we're tribal, where
Right.
people need have a need to follow, a need to be led, as someone, and then there are those people that step up and have a desire to lead and help people find their path, as it were, whatever you want to call it, that will lead those people who have an intrinsic desire to follow someone, to be told what to do.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. There's
It's
always going to be a
basic.
chief
That's
person.
part of the
Right.
tribal mentality, right?
Yeah.
Is
Of course.
um, you're always going to have
There's
that,
leaders and there's followers, and there's way more followers than there ever are going to be
right?
leaders. Of course. No
And
one. That's not gonna like. There's gonna be an entire society of leaders. That's never gonna happen.
right, and you are inherently going to have people who need someone to give them boundaries and rules and lead them, that are not going to like some of the things, and they're going to be pissed and be
Of
like,
course. But
"This is a
the difference
dictator."
is right. Okay. 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 Hang on. That's a
Right.
dictator. Guess what? You're actually, legitimately, genuinely free to leave if you don't like it anymore. You're free to. You know what I mean? Like in an anarchist society, you're free to leave. That's the main thing. Whereas in this world, I mean, okay, we're in America, right? You and I are both in the United States. If we wanted to leave and go to a place that is more representative of us, or at least me, an anarchist now, where do I go?
Right.
Where am I allowed to go? Well, it depends. Another
Nowhere.
country has to take me for one,
Right.
and I have to pick. They get to pick perfectly within their rights, decide who comes into their country and who doesn't, right? Of course. So where do I go then? I'm not allowed to opt out of society. I'm not
Well,
allowed to. Doesn't matter
well,
where I go. Even if I buy a plot of land in, the middle of Wyoming where there's not another person for 100 miles, I'm still responsible for property taxes. I'm still responsible for income tax if I have that.
there's
You know,
places around this world you can get to that yeah,
eh,
that are yeah. I mean, you go live in Africa somewhere, on the African continent.
to Mongolia, something like that maybe. Sure. But even then, I don't know. I don't know what. Maybe they have some laws or something. Even then, I have to get into that country, right? I
Dude,
still have to
welcome,
ask them if I can enter their country.
welcome to the masses. I mean,
Yeah.
welcome to the human race. um, Elephant Man challenged me. He says, "Name one law
Real
that
quick,
rulers."
real quick before you do that, because that's going to take a minute. Um,
You gonna?
Saint over on D Live has given us a shitload of lemons.
No way.
He has given us 990 lemons,
That
which is
sounds like a lot.
almost an entire Ninja Guinea,
That's sexy.
which is cool. Yeah.
I like
So
it.
yeah, thank you, Saint. I just want to acknowledge Saint and his
Nice.
awesome contribution
Mass
before
props.
we go on
Oh,
too far.
oh,
Yeah.
and real quick, Henry's here first as well.
Yes, of course.
Uh,
Henry's first comment, as always.
Back to Elephant Man's challenge. He says, "Name one law that rulers have created that benefited society." Now, you can call it a stretch, me going out on a limb here, but I'm going to
Okay.
I'll give an archaic example. Um, you have from the tribal mentality. You have tribes of people. You've had them throughout history, all over the world. When faced with food shortages during winter times, this, that, and the other, the chief mandates food rationing. And that benefits that
Yeah.
society by making sure that they survive and they have.
Right.
Now, that's a way that a ruler will benefit their society, by making smart choices and expecting people to follow them, and
Right.
and enforcing those mandates as needed. Sometimes maybe harsher than you would like, but
So
that's a way that leadership, it can be done in a positive way. A ruler can
yeah.
benefit their society.
Right. And so, but again, we're talking about a very, very small scale.
Sure,
We're
but
not talking about a national level,
we went
at
to
a massive level.
we went to food rationing here in World War II. We went to
Yeah.
rations here in
Yeah,
this
we
country.
did. Yeah.
This was
Uh-huh.
a decision that had to be
No, you're
made,
right.
right?
It happened.
So
Yes,
so
yes.
it can happen on a large scale. It doesn't have to be associated with just a small tribal situation. On a small scale, this is something that may have to be implemented
Right,
on a
hang on.
larger scale.
Real quick, my bladder is gonna explode.
Okay, have
I will
fun
be
with
right
that.
back.
Um, and I know that I mean we can look and say that in the present day and age with so much food waste and everything, right? That's not, but it is a way that rulers can enact positive change for their society, benefit their society, because you know because if you don't do that, then yes, you're going to have those people in the society that don't properly govern themselves enough to be community minded enough to ration their own food. In that example, um, Henry says this is explained perfect in Lord of the Rings. Mankind is corrupt, and it is true. I mean, we are an easily corruptible species, just like any animal is, right? I mean, you can corrupt a raccoon just by leaving, consistently leaving your trash can lid off, right? And he's going to start going after trash cans all through the neighborhood, right? We're stupid animals when it comes to these things, and we I don't know. It's almost like we think that there's that it's a decision, right? Like and I know the argument that we should be better and make the right decisions, and I get that, but people are human, and these simple things like greed and being corruptible, they come out in us given the right situation, given the right circumstances around us. What's going on? What do we have in our life that's making us consider corruption as an option in moving forward, or to our success, or to whatever it
Wait,
might
so
be.
what are we talking about exactly?
Well,
We accept you talking about corruption?
Henry was talking about in the Lord of the Rings, mankind. They said it
Hmm.
perfectly that mankind is corrupt, and I'm saying, yeah,
Right.
because we are a corruptible species. I mean, this is just one of our failures. Just like any other
Right. It's a
animal, right?
failure of being human.
Right,
Absolutely.
right,
Not actually of most other animals. Corruption is actually specifically a human thing. Maybe some other primates will engage in a form of it, but typically it's a human thing. But are we talking about like corruption and government? Like what's your thing? What's your argument here? Or what point are you trying to make, I guess?
No, no, I was just saying. I mean, that's mankind. I was agreeing with him, and I was just saying yes.
Okay.
But we need to understand that all of this, corruption that goes on isn't always inherently evil. A lot of
Right.
times,
It's
it's
true.
corruption. Circumstance breeds it. There are lots of things that can be impacting someone's lives that make them decide to do something corrupt that they may not normally do, but that
Right.
human frailty comes out in them where they make the wrong decision, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't excuse it. I'm not by any way
Well,
excusing it,
yeah.
but it is what it is. But
Oh,
Helton
my only
says,
point was I was just going to say that corruption is inherent in any kind of institution, government or otherwise.
right,
As soon as you get a bunch of people around, someone's going to be corrupt in one way or another. Right? They're
right,
going to do something that unscrupulous.
right, and
You
and
know.
and and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a big group at all. I mean, you get a group of 10 people together, and I can promise you,
Not even.
right. I'm just using that as
As soon as there were three
a
people, there was a
liberal
plot
small
hatched
number.
against one of them.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
it is a thing, right? It's it's
Yeah.
it's it's a sad thing. Helton says that rationing during WW2 was not necessary. FDR was a tyrannical piece of shite. Um,
I mean, I don't know how that's
he
funny. It didn't censor shite. We know Google's American. um, um, so
he
I
ju-
I
he was
get
able to
why
justify it.
I get why it was done at that time. Um, I don't know if it was necessary or not. I don't have the numbers in front of me of like how much food was being produced and how much was being sent overseas, and
Right.
yeah, I don't have all those numbers in front of me. Um, it probably wasn't necessary. but I get why they wanted because they didn't know how long the war was going to last. It was the biggest war to ever happen in human history,
Right.
and they didn't have the, luxury of hindsight.
Right.
So they didn't know if it was going to be a 5 year war like it was, or if if it was going to be a 15-year war, 50-year war,
Well,
100-year war. They
now,
don't they
now,
didn't know.
now, to what Ron is saying, I will say this: that you might take into consideration that one of the big funders for the war was the war bond, and if people weren't spending as much money on food, they had
Yeah,
money to donate buy war bonds,
right.
right? So, I could see how there could have been some play there to get people to divert money from food to other things, right? Um, into the government's pockets, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I wasn't there, and
and
I
also
didn't have to make the call.
and also I'm in no way defending the government at all in this. I'm just looking at it from their perspective.
Right.
Okay, that's it.
They
I'm
had
not defending their decision. I'm just looking at it from their perspective.
they had their
I'm giving their
justifications.
reasons.
Right.
Right. They had
They
their justifications. You
faulty.
decide if you're
Who
good or
knows?
not, but those are their justifications, right?
Right. We just we just like the stock. We're not saying
We like
buy
right.
it.
We just like the
We just
stock.
like the stock. By the way, that
Yeah.
$5 I invested that it went down to below $1 is now back up over $5. They have driven
Oh, you
GameStop
making
back up.
money?
Right. I'm actually
Get them gains,
right.
son.
Uh, Saint, it was good to see you tonight. Sorry you had to go. He had to go. If we do anything that he wouldn't do, make sure. And if we do
Name it
something,
after him.
right,
I like
that
that.
thing. Henry says he would eat the
Me
raccoon.
too.
Gotcha. Elephant Man, I think that's baiting, Saint. Not sure you should tell us about it. Elephant Man,
Oh,
sorry,
he says,
that's
sorry,
for
that was
Henry.
for Henry.
Power.
Um,
Henry says power corrupts. Of course, you can't be corrupt in your own home. You can
Hang
be.
on. That's what I wanted to address. Yes, you absolutely hell can be. That's why so many that's why you have like a degenerate gambler, who has a family, like a wife and two kids or whatever, and then he goes and blows money at the track
Right.
every week. You
There's
know what I mean? That's
right.
corrupting. He's betting the family's money. That's the family's money. I know he's earning it himself. So yes, technically, like morally, that is his money. Ethically, that is the family's money.
I mean,
And so he's blowing that. He's blowing the chance to give his children a better life. He's blowing the chance to get his wife, new clothes or whatever the thing is, whatever the
mm,
thing that the family needs. He's blowing the chance on that on some dog races or some horse races or
right,
whatever the thing is, and that is corruption. That is the definition of corruption
right.
right there.
Well,
So
yeah,
yes, you absolutely can be corrupt in your own home. That is
right.
absolutely a thing.
What about the spouse that shaves a little bit of money off of
Right.
the joint bank account just for in case something
Oh, come on,
happens, a rainy
Henry.
day, whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
just embezzling a little out of the joint account, just embezzle a little
Right.
here and there.
Just take a
That's
little bit out.
right. Uh,
Yeah. And
how's it?
then he responds with, "That's not being corrupt. He's teaching the family a lesson." That's what he says. That's what he says when he gets caught. Sure,
Right, that's
but that's
Disney.
not what.
That
That's not.
is that Disney? Do you work for
Yeah,
Disney?
dude. Oh
Uh,
God,
it
no.
was
That's
wrong
just him being
then,
a
and it's
degenerate
wrong.
gambler.
It's
Right.
wrong now, and it was wrong then. But we're gonna keep it here as a teaching moment.
Right. Right. Exactly. I'm just gonna continue to lose money as a teaching moment.
Right,
Dude, come on, man. I,
right,
I mean, I'm sorry, Henry. I love you,
right.
but that was not a good defense of that.
And I'm sorry. I'm gonna say teenagers sneaking out of the house after curfew. That's corruption.
um,
Corruption in the establishment. They're
I
not.
think that's. I don't think that's corruption because it's not. It's not necessarily like
If they get a
benefiting
say,
yourself.
if they get a
No, no, no.
say
I
in
see
any decisions
corruption.
about the house, then they're part of
I
the
see. I see corruption as benefiting yourself at the expense of others due to your institutional position, like your position of power, using your position of power to benefit yourself at the expense of others. Whereas, so as teenagers sneaking themselves out of the house is not really benefiting them, it's kind of benefiting themselves, but it's not at the expense of anyone else. It's just
It's sure because it's very emotionally trying for the parents when they don't
if
know where their child is at.
if they find out, if they catch you, that's fair. If they catch
Right?
you doing
Think
it,
about the
yeah.
mental anguish that goes along.
Okay,
Even
if they
when you
catch
have
you
to get it.
though,
What about when you have to get you get angry? The mental anguish of
of
being
course.
angry if you find out.
Well,
You
I think
know.
it's more of the anger as like feeling anger instead
I have
of
feelings,
worry.
John.
You know what I mean? No, I'm saying feeling, well, especially as a man, you know this. You feel instead of feeling like anxious or instead of feeling worried, a man's response is to get angry. But you get angry out of love for your child or for your family, right? It's a it's
No,
a
you get
loving
angry because that
anger.
little bastard didn't do what you
And then
told
and
him
then you punch him in the
to.
face out of love, right? No, of course not. No.
John,
Of
not
course not.
not during closed
No.
captioning shows. Thank you.
Ed said, "Oh, go benefit yourself, John. Maybe I will when we're done with this. Not on camera. Come on, Ed.
Henry says
Making me
his
blush."
wife is stupid for marrying him. I was saying more if you're single at home. That response was for a laugh. By what I meant
Oh, okay,
originally is
fair
you
enough.
can't be corrupt to yourself. Oh, by yourself, yeah. But you
Oh,
know,
I can correct
his wife.
myself. It's again, I'm in a position of power over myself, and I do something that benefits not necessarily benefits in a short term way to myself, and on a long term, it's at the expense of the long term self. You're corrupting yourself that way. So, like, if you steal something, it benefits you in the short term, is you know non beneficial in the long term because you continue to steal or you do more and more crimes. It kills your character. So yes, you can corrupt yourself even in that way. Where yeah, you steal, you get the short term benefit, the
Wow,
long term, you're fucked.
that's
So bam,
I'm telling you,
knowledge,
I'm
a little
telling
bit
you,
of fucking wisdom up in this bitch.
he that's some good stuff he's smoking. I'm just telling you guys.
It's the same stuff you're smoking. I'm just saying.
No, actually, I bet it's not.
Oh, probably not. No.
Right. Uh, but anyway, I do want to call Henry out for spouse shaming the wife. Just remember, Henry,
Hang on,
you
Henry
don't know
says I
what's
can't.
going. You don't know what might change in 10 years.
Henry says I can't steal my own stuff at home. No, but you can steal your own character from it. That was my whole point. Is that you can rob yourself
Of your
of
dignity.
of growth, of dignity, uh, of any number of things. You can rob yourself of all of this stuff.
Look at how John does it just with his beard.
That's right. Just having the beard is I'm already my character is corrupt. You can't trust anything I say. I look at this beard. You can't. Don't believe anything I say. I'm fucking full of shit. You look at this beard. Come on, man.
Just saying. No, Henry, I agree with you. When you're that's the thing. Being by yourself is about the only way that you can't be seen as anything, right? Like nobody can say you're corrupt, morally corrupt, right?
Yeah, you can be morally corrupt.
Nobody can say you're morally corrupt if there's nobody around.
Yeah, if you're
And
completely
that's
alone, but that's also an argument for subjective morality. Because if you believe in objective morality, you have to say
oh
that even alone
yes.
you can be corrupt.
And we'll talk about that on the next show.
Ooh, I like it. Okay, cool.
Maybe. Uh,
Maybe
because I know John wanted to get out of here at some point, and now he's
I
just
wanted to get out of here
running
20
long.
minutes ago.
Right, and you're just getting your feelsy talkings going. Uh,
Yeah, I'm at that point in drunk that I want to like philosophize. So that's a lot of fun. But we do need to get out of here though.
yeah, Henry says I don't condone gambling problems unless you win it at the poker table. Yeah, but think about it. Like, yeah, you don't have to have a
Well, yeah,
gambling problem to go on a stupid weekend with your buddies and blow a bunch of money in Vegas without
yeah. I mean,
telling
that's something
anybody.
you plan.
Right?
Yeah, that's something you plan for though. You say, okay,
Nah,
I got
sure.
this money set aside that I'm
But
planning
Vegas is
on
designed
losing.
to
That's
take
not
everything you didn't plan on spending.
well.
It's
You
designed
have
to
to be.
do that.
It's up to you to be stronger than that
Oh,
temptation,
oh,
right? That's the whole point.
now
Like,
you want me to be some superhuman. I got you.
No, I want you to only take the money with you that you're willing to lose.
That,
Like that's it.
but all money's all digital now. You're taking it all with you everywhere you
Not
go.
necessarily. Not necessarily. You leave your credit card behind. You take your debit card,
Uh huh.
or if you really want to be disciplined, what you do is you buy a prepaid card,
Uh huh.
and then you go with only the prepaid card. You leave everything else behind. You say, "This is the money that I have.
I just
This
call,
is it."
I just called my bank. I'm stranded in
Oh,
Vegas and
stop.
left my card at
Oh,
home.
stop. Oh,
Can
stop.
you next
Oh,
day
stop.
overnight me a new
Oh,
debit
stop.
card?
Oh, stop. You're
That
not gonna
gambling
overnight
for
stuff.
those people
No.
that are susceptible to that gambling bug, they've done.
Right.
People will do that shit.
I'm saying for a normal person.
Oh, but they're,
Jesus
how
Christ.
dare you call
Yes, a
anybody
degenerate
normal?
gambler is going to gamble no matter what. They're going to gamble with seashells if you let them.
But
They're going
sometimes,
to fucking gamble.
but my point
Like,
was, he may not have been a degenerate gambler when they met. So she wasn't
right,
stupid to marry him. He just became a degenerate gambler when
right.
he fell into the trap 10 years later.
That's still some
How was she? She
failure
couldn't have
along the
seen.
way.
She wouldn't have been
It's a
able to see.
failure on his part, most likely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Three
yeah,
tequilas too much. How
maybe.
stupid will booze make you? Let's find out. All right, John.
I don't know. Just
Let's.
listen to me talk, and you'll see. I
Right?
don't
Yeah.
know.
He's feeling them. He's feeling them spirits tonight, folks. All right.
Plain Irish whiskey. That's right. Oh man, good shit. I recommend it, by the way. So
Uh, Henry says you guys are bringing morals into an argument about corruption. Yeah, but that
yeah,
and
I'm sorry.
this is why we will
Like
this is
yeah,
why we will talk about it on another show because you need to face the truth of the matter. Everything that's happening in our society with this corruption is being boiled down to your morals, to
yeah.
who you fundamentally are as a person.
What,
You're
right.
a
What's the
piece of
point of corruption?
shit if you're a Democrat. You're a piece of shit if you're a Republican. You're morally
Right.
corrupt. Morally corrupt is being thrown around out there with all of this stuff. So that's why, yeah, we need to talk about it. You need to be aware that that's what they're coming for. What's your fundamental core and judging it.
hmm
Wake up to it. John, tell these people where they can find us, please.
Yes. You can find all of our non-morally corrupt links in the description. We've got our Twitter at the Gen Gap P. We've got our Discord server, which is awesome and fun, and cool people are there. So make sure you go and check that out. Also, most of the time, not every time, but most of the time, you'll get a notification there before we go live. So in case YouTube decides not to send out that notification, you can get it there. We also have Gilded. If you like us and if you like Freedom Scoop, Gilded is a good place to go for all of that. And we've got our Subscribe Star. So if you like us, what?
And
Oh,
if you like
the
Freedom Scoop kills,
oh yeah yeah
sorry,
yeah yeah
I didn't
the
mean to
vacation.
interrupt you. Go.
I was doing good until you fucked it up.
I know
So
it was just
we have
funny.
Subscribe Star, which is awesome. It's a way that you can directly support us if you like to support us. I think we're actually getting rid of D Live here soon. So, giving us the lemons, by the way, the two of you who have been tonight, Saint and Elephant Man, we
Mad,
really appreciate what you're doing.
mad props.
That's awesome. It seems like you've given us everything you have left, which is amazing because we are going to be getting rid of D Live and we're going to be obviously splitting the profits from the lemons. So we greatly appreciate that. But if anyone wants to start, or if you guys want to continue to support us, Subscribe Star would be a good way to do that. We have three tiers of support, and they offer their own benefits. So not that kind of tier.
Oh,
Um, but if you want to support us, that's a good way to do it. And you get, like I said, you get perks. So you're not just giving us money for nothing. But we will not be giving you chicks for free. You gotta pay for that shit too, just like we do. And yeah, so make sure you go and check those out. And that's it. So that's it. Hit the like button, subscribe button, all that stuff.
So mad love to all of you tonight. I feel like we had a decent little conversation going there, and no matter
Yeah, that was good.
how abbreviated John the tyrant wants to make it,
Oh, the
um,
tyrant. Even though we're half an hour over what I wanted this to be, right?
Henry did say that two different things. Morals are subjective, but I will remind you, sir,
Well,
not in
yeah,
the
yeah.
collective, not in the
Well, we're
collective.
also gonna go deeper into this
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna go way deeper into this. This is not
right.
over.
Oh,
It ain't over.
it ain't over
So
till
come back.
it ain't over till the
The Fat John sings. Oh,
non-body shamed fat lady sings.
fat non-binary person
I
sings.
I if I can't call a lady, what good is anything anymore? All
Well, you
right,
don't know if she's a lady or not.
we're
So
gonna
who told you?
we're gonna get the hell out of here. We are gonna be back again. Potentially Monday night is a good night for a little fill in the gap. Try and bring a little humor into your the beginning of your week. Get you started off with a little chuckle. That's at 9:30 p.m. We'll also be back again for a rousing episode of Shooting the Shit on Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Perhaps we'll talk about this whole moral corruption thing.
Let's
Um,
do it. We
uh,
need more philosophical discussions. I
right.
think
Well,
stuffy academic discussions that
okay.
people get bored with. Let's do it.
Stop throwing 50-cent words around and let me finish up.
Oh, you do that to
Uh,
me all the time. Fuck you. All right.
we're also going to be back again a week from tonight on Friday at 8:30 p.m. for more of this fun ass hattery. And all of those times are are the Eastern time zone, not to be confused with any other time zone, the one and only true time zone, unlike the rest of you, the posers you know you are. We're going to get the hell out of here. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Hit that like button on your way out if you haven't done it already. Get the word out about us. We may not be on D Live too much longer. Periscope is gone. They're going away completely as a platform. But just keep watching where we're at, and we'll expand. Talk to you soon, folks. Have yourselves a great night. Peace out.
Yep, see you guys.
The war will begin.